Good evening, friends. This side Rahul Magan here is a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. Standing today, we're going to shoot about another important video that's about LIBOR transition swap execution facilities. Now, before starting this video, I would like to have my few observations which I have recently in the financial world. Number one observation is that I'm very sorry to say that I'm a very strong supporter of Singapore. But now this might not hold true after 1 or 2 years, because recently Monetary Authority of Singapore grant a license to somebody, Mr. X, right, to operate an aggregate asset management platform. And I really don't think they deserve it. So this video would also cover that important aspect, and that important aspect is the regulatory heading as a number-based regulatory. Now, what do you mean by number-based regulatory is that you have a certain number. So example, your top line is this many $1 million, your bottom line is this many $1 million, you have say 50 employees on the board, you have 3 Bloomberg terminals, you have experience or whatever. Is the regulatory is heading as a number based regulatory, or it is heading as a quality based regulatory? The similar instance happened in India, and well, we know that Indian regulators are paid. You pay the money, they are just like a phone booth. You put your coin and use the booth. So there's not, I think there's no need to mention about India. But Singapore, being a torch bearer, is giving a license to somebody, Mr. X, and that license is backed by Singapore Stock Exchange, SGX, and that cover aggregate asset management. I don't think this holds true. But anyways, the repercussion will very soon will come in the public domain, and you will get to know that how the big boys, the Grab, the Uber, the Ola, the Flipkart, the Snapdeal, how they all end up in a mess, and so would be this platform. Another good news which I wanted to share is that SoftBank launched another vision fund amounting $108 billion. My mathematics is very poor, you know that. My mathematics is not very great. Now, you please let me know how many zeros which we have in 108 billion. Right, and the winner will get $100 prize from my side if you let me know how many zeros we have in 108 billion. But big question is, jokes apart, the vision in the vision fund of any SoftBank is missing always. Name one company SoftBank invested and they end up in a profit. They end up in a profit. But anyways, sooner or later you will get to know that how visionary is the fund of $108 billion, wherein both Apple, which is Tim Cook, and Microsoft, which is Bill Gates, invested. Let's see. Today's video would circulate around this, which is of course LIBOR transition. LIBOR transition is very important part which we are doing. And we being invited by several forums, several IT companies invited us. There are several private and public consultants, those who are taking our professional services in LIBOR transition. LIBOR transition is going to hit somebody very hard, and that I used to believe, but now I don't believe that, because the day I read that Monetary Authority of Singapore grant a license to somebody who really do not know what aggregate asset management starts at, I don't think that swap execution facility is going to face a complete churn. But still, if regulators would continue to act the way they should be, and they do not go as a number-based regulator, rather they go as a quality-based regulator, I hope this video will make sense for them. Now, before moving further, LIBOR transition is going on theoretically. Practically, no bank is working on that, from Goldman, JP Morgan, Standard Chartered, UBS, Barclays, Deutsche. Anyways, don't talk about Deutsche. Deutsche is history now. Every bank is not giving any interest, very requisite interest to the recent SOFR. The problem is getting worse that when the top 3 banks of the globe, who approximately hold $40 trillion each derivative in their books, which includes Goldman, I think the count is 49, which includes JP count is roughly 43, 44, Citi is also greater than 40 trillion. I don't know the exact number, but it is greater than 40 trillion. If I simplistically take 3 banks, Goldman, Chase and Citi, and add 40, 40, 40. The mathematics is $120 trillion. And you just take a simple thing that in the last 2 years, the top 3 banks of the globe, which is Goldman, JP and Citi, how much of their derivative they have shifted from LIBOR to SOFR, which is secured overnight financing rate. And the problem is getting aggravated with the fact that the individual countries have started launching the individual indexes. Like Australia is moving towards ONIA, Australia overnight. Europe is coming up with a different index. There are talks in the market. I'm not giving surety. There are talks in the market that the European Central Bank and the few European countries are working with Europeans outside the purview of the European Central Bank to launch their specified index. I'm not saying it is 100% correct. This is something, the news we have in the interbank market. You know that I am an ex-treasurer, so I know that how exactly interbank work, and we have an access to a lot of news in the interbank market. When we talk about this, which is a swap execution facility, swap execution facility is a platform where you execute the swap theoretically. Practically, it never happens. Practically, it is just like an aggregator. Now, what is an aggregator? From the very first day of my video, I am saying that bank is nothing but an aggregator. So bank is a person who is sitting in the market and he knows that, boss, this side I have a buyer and this side I have a seller. I need to arrange buyer with the seller and need to make my money. That is the only role of the bank. Similarly, swap execution facility is one side you have a buyer, one side you have the seller. Now, before moving further to swap execution facility, I would like to highlight a very important part of swap execution facility. I would like to go to 2016. When in 2016, when the American presidency come into power, on a very same day when the India announces the demonetization. I'm not talking whether the demonetization was a right step or it was a wrong step. Everybody know what kind of step it was. But what I'm talking about is that the day demonetization announced, the e-commerce, the e-platform companies like Paytm, like multiple such companies, their profitability, their volumes grew by 400%. I still remember an article which I read somewhere in 2016 that in the very first month of demonetization, Paytm top line, not the bottom line, Paytm top line grew by 400%. The very first month of the demonetization. Had demonetization not happened, Indian economy would continue to be the paper-based economy, which they are still now. And RBI already acknowledged that the circulation of the currency in Indian market is pre-demonetization level. Similarly, before understanding the swap execution facility, we need to understand a very important architecture which unfortunately again deferred, which is initial margin reforms. Initial margin model, SIMM. The initial margin model by ISDA is unfortunately getting deferred. Nobody knows when it is going to get applicable, maybe 2023, maybe 2024, and might not be. Swap execution facility is just like I would say e-wallet, and the the push factor in swap execution facility is the IM model, initial margin model. Because one of the important things we have in the IM model is that IM model will push people to move towards OTC to exchange derivative market. Although on a personal note, I am always against the fact that there is no need to move from OTC to exchange market, as regulator, exchanges and the people and the users, all three are not ready. But nobody listening. People like us talked, warned, MiFID second would end up as a failure. You see, MiFID second is a failure. People like us warned, EMIR, European Market Infrastructure Regulation 1 and 2 would end up as a failure. It is a failure. Now we are warning that initial margin deferment, I don't know, it is 22, 23, 24, it would end up as a big failure. Nobody is listening. Let it be a failure. We are happy. We want it to be a bank. At least we have no burden of the initial margin model. Thank you very much. But initial margin model deferment would end up a very hit to the swap execution facility. Now let's start slowly towards the swap execution facility. There are two kind of lobbies which we have worldwide. One kind of lobby is the import based lobby, and one kind of lobby is the export based lobby. Import based lobby covers big boys like ExxonMobil, Samsung, Reliance Industries Limited, PetroChina, Petronas, Petrobras, Saudi Aramco, and all big boys. These all big boys are covering the import lobby, while the export lobby is covered by the big export players like Facebook, Google, Apple, Accenture, Cognizant, export big boys. So here it is import big boys, here it is export big boys. Few names I have mentioned, which is ExxonMobil, PetroChina, Petronas, Petrobras, Samsung, RIL, L&T. They are predominantly import based, while Google, Facebook, Apple, Cognizant, Accenture, Uber, Lyft, they are export based. These two names are little subject to import and export both, but we are still considering as an export. They have all the banks in their panel, practically speaking. Goldman, Chase, Citi, Deutsche, Barclays, HSBC, UBS, Credit Suisse, Standard Chartered, and all list is very long, Now what happens, the bank will, they take a lot of positions in the market, and especially talking about the import. Because export never take a lot of position because he is a surplus company. Let's talk Google. Google is a surplus company. Since Google is a surplus company, they don't have swaps in the picture, they don't have oil swaps in the picture, they don't have commodity swaps in the picture. They are cash rich company. They seriously want, you wanted to buy server, $10 million, this is $10 million, you just pay and get the server in order. There is nothing to worry about Google. Well, Aramco, ExxonMobil, RIL, L&T, they are import oriented company. They need to see that we need to import a lot, we need to process that material and then sell subsequently. So we need to have that architecture wherein we can cover our liabilities very well. Recently there is a news in the market, and that news suggests that, I am talking only the news, that Reliance Industries Limited debt level, I think it has crossed 2,86,000 crores and they are heading towards 300,000 crores of debt. And also the free cash of Reliance Industries Limited is at 11-year low, which is practically, if you are 2019, their cash level is lower than 2017. So the cash level which they reported in 2007, is it the same cash level Reliance holding now? This is the serious cause of concern for Reliance, but we are not here discussing in detail here. Now the question is, this import lobby predominantly take a lot of contracts from the bank, and these banks have interbank partners. Now I am not linking each banks, but I have just covered UBS for forwards, DBS, CDS Buyer, Standard Chartered Range Forward, OCBC Seagull, ANZ non-deliverable, Deutsche non-deliverable, Goldman commodity, HSBC LTFX, LTFX stands for forward, Citi first bill default swap, Santander participating, and here comes the IRS, interest rate swaps. Now the question is, there are two ways interest rate swaps are getting settled. One is via OTC. Once we settled the OTC market, now let's take Exxon. Exxon take a position with Goldman, and Goldman cover with, say, Bank of New Zealand. So Exxon take a position with Goldman, Goldman cover with Bank of New Zealand. This is how it happens. But swap execution facilities are devised wherein you can take the swap position in the market, wherein you can take the swap position using the exchange traded platform. Now we have a lot of issues in the swap execution facilities, and slowly they're going to get bust. The right example is this. I don't know how many of you are reading one business newspaper in a day. I don't know how many of you are updating what's happening in the banking sector. I don't know how many of you are busy doing the job which holds no value in the industry. But if you ever get a time to read one business newspaper in a day to get to know how the interbank works happening, you would get to know that Truex has raised both the hands. And they said that we are winding up our IRS platform, which is swap execution facility. LIBOR transition already facing a hurdle, and the hurdle is that more than 1 trillion. The paper is saying, the banks are saying the total amount of derivatives is going to be linked, total amount of derivatives which are linked with the LIBOR is approximately 350 trillion, but this number is incorrect. It is more than 1000 trillion, or in our parlance it is known as 1 trillion. The first biggest problem is the repricing risk. How would you reprice an instrument, all instruments whose overall notional value is more than 1 teratrillion? I hope I need not to explain the notional value here. When the total notional value is more than 1 teratrillion, how are you going to price it? Second problem is when you have the collateral on few trades, how are you going to price this? Third, accounting standards are not ready as far as SOFR is concerned. Fourth, all countries are launching their independent indexes and they are completely disregarding SOFR. Another problem which has hit is that initial margin model is not discontinued, but it is getting postponed. We're going to have separate video after that, wherein I'm going to say my opinion about the initial margin model, why it is getting postponed. Since everything is happening, the world in the OTC and the exchange traded, they are not sure where the LIBOR would be. What would be the scene with the LIBOR? We don't know about that. In this regard, the major swap execution facilities like 2FX, they are history, ICAP, Bloomberg, CME, LCH, Ares, Eurex, FX, Intercontinental, shortened known as ICE, Clearmember, IDC, SwapX. We have Reuters also. I think I missed that. We have Reuters also in this game. The question is, if you are reading one business newspaper in a day, you should know that LCH, London Clearing House, is started firing people. There are two things to a default. One is technical default. One is clear default. Technical default means you are technically defaulted, but you not yet raising your hand. So example, a cricket team has to score 360 runs in 50 hours. One day game, and they scored today it is roughly 40 hours and the score is 190 by 9, which means 9 wickets have fallen and the score is 190. So practically speaking, they need to score approximately 170 more runs in the 10 hours, which means the run rate is 17 hours per hour, which is more than approximately 3 runs per ball, and that is next to impossible. No cricket team can make 3 runs per ball, even if that cricket team would have all the best players of the globe. So technically they have lost the game. Practically not, because the 50th over has not yet concluded and the last wicket has not yet fallen. Now the problem is the world is in big jeopardy. Initial margin model has practically deferred. These swap execution facilities, they are in a big cost operating mode. They have started firing people. One already raised the hand, which is TrueX, and multiple bound to raise the hand. It is just like when a big player in the market raise the hand, it effectively means that the small players are also facing the heat. So just like Maruti, let me give an example in an Indian context. Indian automobile sector is facing a huge recession, and there are news that over 1 million jobs is going to get cut. And if I'm not incorrect, the net profit of Maruti has fallen by 27% bottom line, and their sales figure down by 19%. If Maruti is facing heat, it means all the small players are facing heat. That's for sure. Now the question is, if we do not have the right resolution on LIBOR, if every country wanted to have their independent indexes and disregard they basically disregard the authorities, those who have decided SOFR. And third, if the alternate rate is not considered as SOFR, the top 3 banks of the globe who hold more than $120 trillion of derivative, and I'm giving you in writing that out of 120 trillion, including Goldman himself not converted more than 1 trillion to SOFR. So even out of 49 which they have in the book, they have not converted even 1 to SOFR. That I'm sure. Now the scene is that if all these things are happening, this would end up something which is known as financial Armageddon. Armageddon is a Hollywood movie which made, I don't know when it was made. The movie is based on a meteor. When a meteor comes to Earth, a team from the land goes to the meteor. They put some nuclear bomb inside that and they let it explode. The person who led the team is Harry Stamper. Harry Stamper showed a lot of courage, but in this world, when LIBOR transition is going on, when IM is being postponed, one already raised the hands, another are about to raise the hand. Over a trillion worth of security is going to get repriced. Accounting bodies, two top, International Accounting Standard Board, the custodians of IFRS, the Financial Accounting Standard Board, the custodians of US GAAP, both have not said a single line about SOF or accounting. We are moving towards Armageddon. But the point is, we do not have any Harry Stamper who will come and save this time, because everyone is having a separate aircraft and moving to that meteor and putting their individual bumps. There is no coordination. And before winding up this video, I also would like to warn people that if we do not resolve this problem in the next 3 months, and if initial margin model will get deferred, this would have serious consequences on the global, and regulators have to take the complete responsibility, because the swap execution facility would wind it up. If initial margin model would get postponed, then I am telling you right now, you take my words, it is 27th July 2019, that out of the list, which is not comprehensive, the list is very long, 40 to 45% of this list would be evaporated in the next 2 years if initial margin model will get deferred, because they will not be able to even afford their cost. Henceforth, we are messing up the LIBOR transition, and this time the first hit of that mess up would be the swap execution facility. To wind up this video, I'm warning people that this heat will definitely touch all these big names. My board is small, but the list is very long. You know that. Everyone in this list will face the heat if initial margin model will get deferred, or whatever points I mentioned not concluded as early as possible. This was the purpose to shoot this video, is to warn you, is to let you know, because we shoot the video which the world do not want to talk it about, but we are irrespective, we don't bother about them. With this, Treasury Consulting, thank you very much, and I have a wonderful news for you, and that news is that my Julia, my darling Julia, my bot is all ready. We have crossed almost all hurdles in Julia. It's going to be 16 asset class bot. It's going to have the trail facility. It's going to have the slider facility. It's going to have the chat facility soon. We are trying to launch chat facility before in this August, but we will see if it is deferred to another 1 month or so. We're going to have the document facility. We're going to have the Q&A facility. We're going to have 5,000 questions, and Julia is set. Julia is set to challenge all the banks. We are not going to be subdued by any bank I mentioned here. Julia is coming in first week of August, and it's not an IM model, or it is not fundamental review of the trading book which can be pushed forward for another 2 years. Julia will make sure one thing, that all the front office people and all the front offices, especially in Singapore, those who are not disclosing the requisite information in the public domain, will start feeling that it is the end, it is the beginning of the end of the show for them. And to wind up this video, that Julia is not alone. Before December 2019, Treasury Consulting would have at least 2 bots ready out of 3. One would be Julia, second would be Christine, and third would be Smith. We will disclose about Christine and Smith when the appropriate time will come, but at least our endeavor is that before December 19, 3 bots to ready: Julia, Christine and Smith. With this, Treasury Consulting, thank you very much, with a warning that if we mess up with LIBOR transition, then this mess up would be much severe and catastrophic versus 2008. And I am 200% sure that none of the regulators, including the top regulators I like, hope you guessed it, they are ready to mess it up. With this, Treasury Consulting, thank you very much. You know my mobile number, let me write somewhere, which is +919899242978. You know my mobile number, +91, which is an Indian code, 9899242978. And don't forget to visit our fixed income platform, www.fixedincome.global. Multiple things on the cards. Talk soon. Have a good time. Thank you.